Hey, what's up, guys? Me and Abyss here to talk to you about the Division 2 private beta, which we played over the weekend. And my overwhelming thought is, fuck, I fell for it again.
We're gonna steal the Declaration of Independence.
I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence.
Okay, guys. So, Abyss, what did you sort of, what are you feeling about this beta? What did you think? Did you think I want to go buy this game?
All right, so here's the deal, guys. Division 1 was my most absolute hyped game ever. I put so much faith into it. I watched all the trailers. I watched every gameplay footage I could find. I was all for it. I went all in. I pre-ordered the most expensive version, and I had every bit of faith that I should not have had in Ubisoft. They did it again. They did it again. Okay, so look. Here's the thing, right? This game, they learned a lot of lessons from the Division 1. Good job, Ubisoft. I didn't expect you to do otherwise. There's not as much bullet sponge. The loot system is a lot better than it was in the first one. They did learn things. And then they fucked up everything else. All right, so first off, the biggest and greatest headache that I had in this game was the bugs. There was so many of them. They were everywhere.
So buggy.
From animation bugs where Lou would be running forever.
What the fuck? Look at this shit.
Run, baby, run. Or would be crouched forever. Stairs, please.
What?
Oh my god.
Wait, why am I crouching in your screen? How does what? Superman slide. Everybody was surfing. Surfing USA.
To different bugs where you would get stuck trying to climb on different parts of the environment and you couldn't get away, and then they'd end up getting killed because you couldn't move. To crashes. I crashed a few times. Lou crashed once or twice as well, and we would have to reconnect with each other in the middle of a mission, after a mission. If this game is coming out in a month, they have a lot of work to do. Take away all the bugs and everything. They did a good job. The abilities feel much more impactful than they did in the first game. They normalized a lot of the stats. There's no longer a skill stat or a health stat or a weapon stat. It's all very normalized. There's armor, there's how much health you have, and there's how much skill power you have that you gain from your armor and such. So you don't have to worry about becoming completely useless by building into certain stats and otherwise. They made you feel more powerful, but there's a lot of work to do.
I'd say my main takeaway from this really is that I don't really feel like this is Division 2. I feel like it's Division 1.5. Yeah. It doesn't feel like much of a step up to me. It feels like these things they've done could have been easily bolted onto the first one, really, and probably weren't meant for the first one, to be honest with you. I think the weapons were a lot better, to their credit. I felt in the first game
they feel
weapon
heavier.
choice didn't matter too much. This time they feel like they all have their own purpose and role. Yeah. A lot more this time.
We used the shotgun to great effect against the bosses.
Far better. I think it's not better. There's less spongy enemies, but the ones that are spongy are better because the components, like they have more, like they have like armor. Like if they're like a yellow health bar, they're stronger, but they've got bits of armor that will fall off if you damage it, and then you do a lot more damage to them. Unlike the first one where they would just flat out take the same damage all the way through. Now if you focus key areas, it will fall off and you can do a lot more damage. So that was a lot better.
Which they
so weapons and bullet sponge much better.
They talked about that going into this one. They were aiming for a lot more realism versus the first one being very, very stats driven. This one, they swarm you a lot more with very squishy enemies. If you headshot them 2 or 3 times, they're dead. There's not a lot to worry about unless they're very heavy armored bosses or the occasional elite enemies. They did a lot better with that, and when the AI has a lot of numbers, they do a good job of pushing you out of position and keeping you moving. If you stay in one spot too much while being swarmed, we died quite a few times on different occasions because we didn't keep moving and we got swarmed, and they did a good job of that. But as far as the AI goes, beyond the swarm mechanic, there ain't much else to them. I mean, you can
worst AI.
You can abuse the AI very easily in this game. Especially once you start getting the hang of which abilities are stronger than others. The turrets are very good at dragging all the aggro from all the AI, and then you can just pick them off like fish in a barrel.
It's even worse than that. Like, if there's a player, if you were as a player shoot an NPC, the NPC will shoot back at you, and another player can go and shoot that NPC point blank with a shotgun, and AI will completely ignore them. It is. I think my main problem with the beta was the AI was terrible.
Well,
terrible.
no, they're aiming for
Aliens Colonial Marines AI level was almost better than this.
I don't think it's that
the
bad.
AI was so. I honestly thought I've never seen AI this bad.
They're still.
It was
well,
awful.
You know, while they are aiming for realism, they're still an aggro system. This is still a low scale MMO to an extent. You know, there's also going to be shields when the game comes out, which weren't in the beta. Those are in Division 1, and when you deploy those, they do give you threat. And when someone else they could be shooting them point blank, but the enemy will still shoot you because there is aggro in this game. So there is the MMO spec of it.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, there's even times where I had AI would be stuck, stood still, staring into space while getting shot. And you'd be like, "What are you doing?"
Sometimes
like,
the AI just flat out breaks. Yep.
Yeah, the boss just stood there and watched us kill him at one point. I'd be like, "What?" And then it had that robotic dog thing that moved about 2 yards and just stood there and let us kill it. It was bizarre. I don't know what the fuck is it. It's just sat there.
Alright, let me shoot with my phone.
Oh, hang on, it's alive. Wait. What? Did that even do any damage? It's just gonna run off now? What? What is this AI? What the fuck? It just ran off?
System curtailed.
It breaks a lot. And when it breaks, and that's unfortunate for a game that is very, very heavily PvE. So
I had a lot of T-posing going on. It was
was
very
also
Fallout
that as well,
76.
yeah.
There's a lot of T-posing going on, especially from non-enemy combatants. Like if it's just like like a civilian walking along the street, they'd just be T-posing or frozen in the spot. It was like, what the hell? What's going on there?
very, very odd things with the AI. They definitely have a lot of work to do. The graphics in general, it's a relatively pretty game in general. Now there were some major issues with it. For one, where the fuck are the shadows?
Yeah. But the game is cleverly. It looks really pretty in the light. In the light is where it shines, pun intended. But if you're not in the sunlight and you're just in like the general ambient lighting, it's exactly the same as. I don't feel like this game's stepped up at all in graphics.
When you're,
there's no graphical difference to me.
When you're in the sunlight, the shadows are very pretty. The world becomes very vibrant. But literally, the moment the sunlight goes away, it becomes this grayish, no shadow, very boring world. And it's very odd how dramatic the world changes when there's sunlight and when there's none. Also,
I thought the game was broken.
Yeah. At one point, we were testing different. We were going from ultra to medium to see if shadows would magically appear. It was very, very odd. And you know, they're using the snowdrop engine, and the first game had a lot of snow everywhere, and it looked very pretty, and there was a lot of different effects with the way the snow and everything interacted. But the snowdrop engine is for the snow.
They literally modified it specifically for snow.
There's no snow in this game.
which is weird, because I think I played Division 1 even on the weekend after the beta, because I thought, is this better than number 1? I feel like it's exactly the same, and I was like, okay, let's play number 1 and see if it really is. Does it feel the same? And in fact, if anything, I think Division 2 movement felt slower. Division 1 I think looked actually better.
To me, Division 1 looks better.
I think just because maybe it's just because I like the environment better with snow and stuff, but I think just the detail was better. Like all the overgrown shrubbery, it's just kind of boring to me. I don't know if it's just. I don't think graphically it's any worse. I think it's just a more boring aesthetic.
It looks like you could copy paste it across the environment and call it a day. You know what I mean? Like it's not hard to make overgrown shrubbery across the entire map.
Very pretty game in sunlight, and inside buildings they have like lights that cast shadows. But as soon as you're out of sunlight or outside, and you're not in sunlight, there's just no. There's like no lighting.
There are specific light bulbs every once in a while that you will run into that will project shadows, and that's it. Besides the sunlight,
it's very odd.
It's very weird graphically, very, very weird. Unfortunately, it looks decent, but unfortunately, there's some very weird issues, and unfortunately, the audio is just as bad in a lot of respects.
The audio.
It was very. When it was, I mean,
worked
it's
out
the
if
same
I
thing.
had
When it
my,
was working, it worked well, but a lot of times it just didn't.
I had no gun sounds for most of the beta, honestly. There was so hit and miss of gun sounds. And I found out at one point, my volume was set to 40% volume. I had nearly no sound whatsoever.
Your sound
but at 45% volume, it all came back again.
Your sound
So like
effects
below
turned
45% volume, my gun sounds, footstep, everything just vanished. Completely.
It was a buggy
Just
mess
gone.
again. I mean, it's just the
Bizarre.
more and more bugs. I think for a good solid hour, I never heard your guns. Like I could see you shooting an enemy right in front of me, and nothing. I couldn't. People were just dying from weird tracers coming from the abyss. Hi. So that was very odd.
Did you have the invisible gun thing? I had moments where my gun was
didn't have
not
any
there.
invisible
I had an
guns.
invisible gun. It was bizarre.
You had invisible sounds to me, but never invisible guns. The UI legitimately looks like a straight up copy paste from the Division 1, and I got to tell you, it wasn't good in the Division 1. It's not good in the Division 2. So
I hate the UI. I think it's even worse.
it's
It's even more
it
complex.
feels even more cluttered. Yeah, it feels even more cluttered with no smoothing of how to get from one section to the other. Like it's
Oh, something you couldn't click on a menu and it opened. You had to like press. You had to click it and then press spacebar. It wouldn't like just open when you click it.
Or
unlike
double
the first
click
one, you
it.
click it and it would go whoop.
yeah.
You had to double click. Yeah, which didn't work for me most. So I had to hit spacebar most of the time. I couldn't get into menus.
Which was the
trying
first
to get
game.
to my inventory.
It was
Oh,
the
I
very
didn't get out of it. If I opened my inventory and then I got shot at, could I get? I couldn't get out of it.
was
I
the
died
first
because I couldn't get out of the
same
menu.
in the first one. I more times than not in the first one, I would default to using the keyboard completely, spacebar and such. They didn't learn anything. The UI looks like a straight up copy paste, except there's more things to introduce, so they kind of shoved them in wherever they could find room. It was a mess.
It's like they spoke to Microsoft and, hey, you know your Xbox One UI? When, yeah, do you know when you had the very first layout for your Xbox
we
One? It
borrow
was
that?
terrible. Everyone hated it. Can we use that but add way more tiles? Yeah, go for it. It was awful. It was so confusing. I couldn't find anything. And everything's, even when you're not in the UI, if you were in the game world running around and stuff, the UI was like scattered everywhere. There was nothing, like, and it was never consistent. Like things would move around weird places, and I'd be like, "Where's that gone?" I'm like, "Oh, there it is in the bottom right now, and it was in the top left." Like that threw me off quite a lot of times. The UI was just never consistently in one spot.
Yeah, they did
Maybe that was a bug. I don't know.
messy and
Do you have that? I
complex.
don't
but
know.
No, I don't. To me, it felt just pretty much the Division 1. So I worked with it because I dealt with it for the entire Division 1 experience, but I wasn't happy about it. So moving on, we talked a lot about the AI. If you're going to be PvEing in this game, expect a big buggy mess. The UI is broken. We'll see how it goes. Just don't expect anything. Now they do have they have instance PvP situations, which they added into the Division 1 about a year later, maybe longer actually.
Yes.
I don't have any personal experience with this when it comes to the beta. I never did the structured PvP, so this is Lou's area of expertise.
Yep.
Although first
Unfortunately, I
impressions, I'm not expecting anything better. So hit it.
Prepare yourself. Okay, so it was called Conflict, and you had to go to a specific NPC under the helipad, and you would start 4v4 matchmaking. And it was, I don't know if it was because of the level we played on, but I found the PvP was awful. I thought after Ghost Recon Wildlands, I'd really enjoy it. And Division 1, I quite liked it. And this one, the PvP was awful. Everything I said about the guns earlier, like the guns felt like they had a purpose. In PvP, completely backwards. LMGs were a nightmare. Single shot weapons were a nightmare. Half the time, bullet hits didn't register. Like, you get the hit indicator, but the health wouldn't go down at all. No, you're going to see so many clips as I'm talking over this now.
Fuck the netcode.
Problems in PvP. The PvP was dire. It was nothing like Wildlands. It was a buggy mess where guns wouldn't register and certain guns were pointless. It was honestly the worst PvP I think I've ever experienced in a game ever.
Wow.
Honestly, it was that bad.
I guess I'm glad I didn't play it.
It was meant to, I think it was partly the level design, but there's like a building in the middle and then it's a roof. And pretty much whatever team were on the roof wins. Because you can only get up there by climbing up the wall or up the ladder or up the stairs. But to get the stairs, you have to flank around. And it was just, you couldn't really, if they're behind cover, you had to expose yourself to get up to them. So it was instantly
just
completely rigged against you. You just couldn't do anything.
Fish in a barrel, just shooting you while you're trying to get to
It was
them.
awful.
Yeah.
It was honestly awful level design. to be honest with you.
Obviously, map design is always an important section when it comes to instance-based PvP. If they can't even get that right, I don't see them getting weapon balance right or skill balance right.
They throw down 3 drones on a stairway and then 1 drone on the ladder, and that's it. As soon as you get up the ladder, you've lost half your armor.
Yeah.
Straight away, you're trying to get cover to heal, and then you can't take cover because the drone's down behind you. You've gone past it to get cover, and there's someone in front of you, so you've got nowhere to even go to try and avoid it. The matchmaking was terrible. It seemed like every match was like 14-0. It was a complete whitewash every round. It was
I
awful.
felt like in this game there was a very, very clear expectation of what skills were the best to use. End of story. And I think the problem with that was there was only 3 skills that they gave us. There's 8 skills available in the full release, but they only let us use 3. And they didn't even let us use all the talents from those 3. There was only specific talents from each of those 3 skills that we could use. So we only got about like 1/12 of the available skills, and I feel like a lot of those are very useful in countering other skills. So especially for the beta, it was extremely unbalanced because certain skills were just OP and they had no counters behind them, and that might change on full release. I'm not fully optimistic that it will, but it's possible. That's just one thing to consider as well.
But I wanted Wildlands PvP, and instead I got use a shotgun or an assault rifle and camp the roof or you lose, and it was a really bad experience, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so
luckily, things improve when we get to the Dark Zone.
When you first get to the Dark Zone, it gives you this introductory mission where it tells you about the different new mechanics. You get right in, you turn on the turrets, which are basically the spawn protection, and then you go and you fight a couple of bosses, and then it's purely PvE for the sake of learning what the Dark Zone is. And then you kind of leave and you can rejoin it, and then you're in a PvP instance, which is you see players running around and there's still PvE enemies, but you can choose to go rogue and you can choose to kill them. We did that for a little bit when I was with you, and there was very few players, and they had this gimmicky rogue game where you had to run around and hack some consoles and such, and it just felt very bare to me and very gimmicky. So I didn't really enjoy it, but I didn't play it too much in depth.
There's basically 3 states of being a rogue agent, and once you get to the top tier, you get better rewards, better loot, but then the higher risk is everyone can see you, basically. So when you go rogue at first, people nearby get an alert, but that's it. And once you start killing players, more and more people will alert at your position, and when you get to the 3rd final stage of it, everyone in the Dark Zone knows where you are, and they got a bounty to come and get you. So your rewards are much higher, but your risk is a lot higher, which is actually really good. I really like that.
That sounds similar to 1 to me. The only problem with Division 1 was there was no real reward for going rogue. It was simply killing other players to kill other players.
It's just griefing. Yeah.
So in this one, it seems like they kind of took the system from the Division 1 and improved upon it. There are rewards for going rogue. There is incentive for PvPing beyond just griefing. And that's definitely a good thing. That's a good step in the right direction. To me, it felt very barren. There wasn't enough players. I don't know if that got better with time or such.
I mean, that's, you see, there's like terminals you hack, right? So the idea, I think, what they want you to do really is go rogue, kill a lot of players, get all the gear off of them, and then you find those terminals and you activate them. And then when you think I no longer want to risk losing all my gear, and an extract is too risky, right? So basically, they want you to get all the gear, loot it up, and then find these terminals, because once you start one, you've got a time to get to the next one. So you start it, you get through, and then you get to what they call a den of thieves.
Thieves den, yeah.
And once you get there, you lose your rogue status. So you're now free of risk and you kept all the loot. And there's a special vendor in there you can buy special stuff from, which I think is a pretty good system, because in Division 1, you literally had to extract it or get out, and that was it. And it was pretty tough to do that without getting killed.
You had a timer for
that's true,
going clear, but a lot of the problem with the Division 1 was the whole map can see you now, so they're all trying to kill you, and you have this timer that you have to wait out, but every time you kill another player, the timer goes back to max, which
you got to defend yourself.
At that point, it becomes self-defense. You're killing players not to kill players, but to stay alive, and you went in this perpetual permanent rogue status where you just literally couldn't escape it. So it's good that they give you a system to try and escape that. You're fighting your way through the town trying to hack these terminals so that you can find out where the thieves den is and you can clear your name. So they definitely did some good improvements with the Dark Zone. There are now also 3 Dark Zones. The first 2 are normalized zones, where everyone's equipment is balanced out and you don't have to worry about one person being more OP than the other simply because they played the game longer. And then the final Endgame Dark Zone is level 30. Everyone has their equipment, and if you've been grinding for 100 hours, well, you probably got the best loot, and you're going to have a bit of an advantage versus other players.
So glad they did this. So glad.
Normalization
Dark Zone was supposed to be.
Yes, it was completely and utterly needed, honestly. But obviously, it's always fun to feel rewarded for the gear that you've earned.
Specializations.
So after the first day of beta, they introduced the end game concept of the game where they gave you a level 30 character and they let you choose one of the specializations in the end game. There are 3 branches of specialization, if I'm not mistaken. One is a sniper, one is a gadgeteer or something like that, and there's one more.
So we have the sniper rifle, the explosive crossbow, and a grenade launcher. And you get very limited ammo for them. You get about 6. I didn't play the sniper, but you got about 6 rounds of the crossbow. Not crossbow. Was it crossbow? It was a crossbow. Yeah, and about 6 grenade launcher shells. And in PvE environments, I didn't really feel like they did much, honestly. The ammo was so scarce; it didn't seem to do much. In fact, I used a grenade launcher on a group of enemies, and it didn't even register the damage, which was cool. But ultimately, the specializations, they made a big deal about it, like it's some sort of game-changing feature. But honestly, I don't think it really added anything. If anything, it annoyed me with how useless they kind of were. Like, I feel like, this is my I'm a specialist. I am now the sniper. I'm going to be a badass sniper.
Exactly.
But I get 3 or 4 shots and I'm out. Like,
I was
and it doesn't even kill most NPCs in one hit. So
I was expecting specializations to kind of focus your gameplay a bit more. You know, I'm going to be a sniper, so I'm going to use sniper rifles. Not, let me pop out my specialization for 3 seconds and call it a day. It feels like an ultimate versus an actual specialization. I think they chose the wrong wording or something. What I was expecting was this is where we're going to kind of toy in our MMO elements. We'll have a specialization for characters that want to be more tanky so they can get their shield stronger. We'll have a specialization for healers who want stronger drones to heal their teammates, or maybe they can heal more than one teammate at a time. And then we'll have specializations for DPS characters, whether it be snipers or LMGs with better suppression. You know, they could have done a lot with this, and it seems like they just flopped it by trying to give you an OP weapon and call it a day. So
yeah, it feels like a real bare bones feature that they threw in last minute. It doesn't seem like. I almost feel like my impression of the demo as a whole was that the beta didn't do enough to make me think. The beta didn't really say, here's what is better than Division 1. It didn't really showcase anything particularly better than the first game did. You know, it feels very much like the same game. So I think maybe that's just a fault of the beta. Maybe in the release game we'll have a much better feel. But the beta is meant to almost sell the game really and help us see what we're in for, what we're getting ourselves in for, what we've got to look forward to. And nothing in the beta made me think I'm looking forward to this. Yeah. Nothing did that.
You know, pushing on to final impressions here, the beta is really the make or break for a lot of games on whether people are going to buy it or not. This is my final impression a couple of weeks before the game comes out. It's a giant buggy mess, and I don't see much improvements. You know, Ubisoft clearly did their part when it came to improving the game and learning from the Division 1's initial launch mistakes. Enemies are no longer bullet sponges, the classes feel more powerful, the skills feel more powerful. They learned from their game,
weapons
but the weapons feel much stronger as well. They learned a lot from the Division 1, but they have to make this game more stable.
Nothing really worked as well. I thought I went and played Division 1, I had more fun playing Division 1, so that's not a good place to be.
The Division 1's been out for a couple of years now. It's very stable. They've fixed so many of the problems that the Division 1 have when it comes to bullet sponging and different loot problems and OP characters and such. It feels very balanced and fun where it's at right now, and they've had a lot of time to develop that. The Division 2, it doesn't seem like they're really clear on what they want to do with it. They have the general idea of the improvements they want, but they did not execute them. They did not at all, and it's a problem.
The main good thing I picked up from the beta was the missions were so much better, especially side missions. Before on the other game, it's just here's an encounter, go here. On this one, there was much more stuff in the open world. But side missions much better, much more interesting. Random encounters in the open world, like executions and stuff, much better.
They have more,
weapons felt much more useful, much more purposeful.
They have open world events as well. They have kind of shifting territories where the AI can take over an area and you can take it back from them, and vice versa. There's open world events. They definitely added a lot more content. You could tell that simply from the beta. But
good content too, from what I've seen.
Good content, doesn't overshadow buggy content. It's just that simple at this point.
Yeah, you can see what they're trying to do with it. It's just not doing it yet.
And like he said, even the side missions were fun because, again, one of the side missions was to steal the Declaration of Independence.
Bangers and mash.
Bangers and mash. Bubbles and squeak. Smoked deal pie. Chef. Hi, guys.
Guys, if you're on the fence on this one, I would definitely hold out. If you are a huge Division 1 fan and you can't help but get it, go in with a healthy amount of skepticism because you need it on this one. That's for sure.
You're going to need a few patches. And also at launch, I think they said the survival mode isn't coming in at launch, which is a main. Like everyone loved that in Division 1 survival mode.
I play that all the time in Division 1.
Weird to not have that in this one at launch. They're bringing it in later. So I think this is going to be a late bloomer. I think it's going to be a great game when it gets there. It's just not there yet. But I'm still kind of looking forward to it, honestly. The beat was disappointing, but I'm still looking forward to it.
Yep, we'll see how it goes. I have faith in Ubisoft. They've proven they can take games that have the potential to be great and make them great, whether they fail at launch or not. So we'll see what happens. In the end, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, as always, feel free to like and subscribe.
Yeah. Do that thing, and hopefully it will work. Unlike the beta we played at the weekend,
Yeah.
somewhat.
Oh.
But also, just quick signing off note as well. I cannot stress how bad the PvP was and how bad I was at it, which is probably a factor here, I'm sure. But anyway, hope everyone's had a better experience than we did. And of course, leave us your comments below if you had any real bad bugs or any funny moments or something. Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your stories and get more involved with you. So, and hopefully, we'll see you on the next video.
Good night.
See ya.